In the summer of 1922, when the world seemed drunk on its newfound wealth and roaring rhythms, I arrived in West Egg, a glittering village nestled against the Long Island Sound. It was a place where the nouveau riche erected vast mansions to rival the estates of European nobility, castles built not of stone but of ambition and excess. My house, a modest, weather-beaten bungalow, stood as an afterthought between these opulent behemoths. But for all its humility, it had one redeeming feature. It was next door to the most enigmatic man I would ever meet. My name is Nick Carraway. I came east from the Midwest, lured by the promise of a career in bonds, a profession that seemed as impenetrable and dazzling as the gold it claimed to trade in. At 29, I still clung to the remnants of my youthful ideals, though I would soon learn that ideals fared poorly in the shadows of soaring skyscrapers and gilded champagne flutes. My decision to rent the bungalow was born of practicality, though in retrospect, it seemed more like fate. An invitation to society. On my first evening in West Egg, as twilight cast its lavender glow over the Sound, I ventured to East Egg to visit my cousin, Daisy Buchanan. Her home was a vision of classical grace, a Georgian mansion perched regally on a green hill, its white facade gleaming like a pearl against the encroaching dusk. Daisy greeted me on the veranda, her laughter spilling out like champagne bubbles, a sound that was both effervescent and faintly wistful. "Nick, darling," she exclaimed, her arms outstretched. Daisy was a wisp of a woman, delicate and radiant, with a voice that could coax secrets from even the most taciturn soul. Behind her trailed Tom Buchanan, her husband, a man whose physical presence was as commanding as Daisy's, was ethereal. Tom's hulking frame and hard-edged voice spoke of old money and entitlement, the kind that shaped not only fortunes, but destinies. As the evening unfolded, I became an unwilling audience to their domestic drama. Tom, though outwardly the picture of affluence, wore his dissatisfaction like an ill-fitting suit. His brutish charm barely concealed his infidelity, a fact underscored by the intrusive ringing of the telephone, a call from his mistress that Daisy pretended not to hear. Over dinner, I sensed an undercurrent of tension beneath the surface gaiety. Tom pontificated about the decline of civilization, quoting from some pseudo-intellectual book about racial superiority, while Daisy deflected with practiced grace. I watched her closely, noting how her eyes flicked to the phone, her smile faltering for the briefest moment. A neighbor cloaked in mystery. Returning to West Egg that night, I noticed a single light burning in the colossal mansion next to mine. It was a house that defied categorization, a hodgepodge of architectural styles that seemed to reflect its owner's desire to be all things at once. As I stood on my small porch, savoring the cool sea breeze, I saw a figure emerge from the shadows of the neighboring garden. He was tall and immaculately dressed, his silhouette framed against the restless waters of the Sound. The man stood still for a long moment, staring across the bay. Following his gaze, I saw a green light blinking faintly in the distance, its source hidden by the curve of the shore. There was an air of longing about him, as if the light were a beacon, not of navigation, but of desire. Before I could call out or introduce myself, he turned and vanished into the house. I learned his name the following week. J. Gatsby. It was a name whispered with equal parts reverence and curiosity at every gathering I attended. Gatsby was known for his extravagant parties, spectacles of indulgence where the champagne never stopped flowing and the music played until dawn. Yet, for all the talk of his wealth and his charm, no one seemed to know the man himself. Where had his fortune come from? What secrets did he hide behind his flawless smile? The pull of the past, My days in West Egg quickly fell into a routine of sorts. During the week, I commuted to the city, immersing myself in the labyrinthine world of finance. But my evenings were often spent observing the strange, hypnotic rhythms of my new neighborhood. From my porch, I could hear the distant hum of music from Gatsby's mansion, a low thrum of life that made my modest bungalow feel even smaller. One night, as I sat with a glass of whiskey and a tattered book, the music grew louder, its crescendo drawing my attention. Curious, I wandered down to the beach. The mansion loomed before me, its windows aglow, the sound of laughter spilling out into the night. For a moment, I considered walking up the driveway and introducing myself, but something held me back, a feeling that the house, for all its light and noise, was more fortress than home. I thought of Daisy and Tom, their gilded life in East Egg, a world apart from Gatsby's spectacle. Yet there was a thread that seemed to connect them, an invisible tension that would soon draw me into its orbit. Foreshadowing dreams. Though I knew little of Gatsby at this point, I sensed that he was more than just a wealthy recluse. The green light across the bay haunted me as it must have haunted him, a symbol of something both tangible and unattainable. It was not merely the promise of wealth, but of belonging, of reclaiming a past that shimmered just out of reach. In the days to come, I would find myself entangled in his world, a reluctant participant in his grandiose dreams and the inevitable tragedies they carried. But for now, the summer nights in West Egg held an air of possibility, the kind that makes you believe anything is within your grasp, even if it is only an illusion.